I don't know if I'm live yet or not. It hasn't popped up on the screen. Good morning.
I think you was live.
Yep, I am. Definitely am now. There you are, even coming back.
Here I am.
And good morning, Tina, Carol.
I had to run a brush through my
beard,
my facial hair.
Good morning, Ian. Good morning, Francisco. And all the ships at sea.
How come my hands look busted?
I don't know. Does mine?
No, yours look normal. Mine look like my fingers have all been broken. Oh.
Well, they probably have.
There's probably a reason for that.
They probably have all been broken. You dummy.
I gotta get some light. I gotta figure out this whole lighting thing.
I actually am really amazed mine aren't more crooked than they are.
Yeah, because I've seen you hit them with a hammer.
You didn't have to tell that to everybody either. Yeah, I have. I've whacked them. Oh my gosh, I've whacked. I don't know if I ever told you this story or not, but I was working one summer and building that slaughterhouse with Pat Patrick's crew. I was we were putting in electrical boxes, I think, and I was up on a ladder several feet off the floor, and I was trying to drive in. And either that or we were setting floor joists. I can't remember, but we were up there hammering big 8 or 10 penny nails. And I was whacking away at it, and I, of course, had my hand up there close by. And I swung that hammer and hit a finger. And I don't know how I kept from falling to the floor. I just about passed out. Oh, my Lord. And then I can remember getting hit right in here in the hand many times by a sledge while we were working on the forge and stuff. So I'm surprised they work, but they do. Well, thank you, Carol. I appreciate that.
They're just not that happy.
Yeah. And Mike Cabral, good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, all.
I snuck out and got a donut for you today, Mike, but it's way over there and I can't reach it. So I guess I'll eat it later. Yeah, Carol, I think my camera might be too clear. It shows me a little bit too well, I think. I might have to do something about that. Hang a cloth over it or something, a mesh.
Just smear some Vaseline on the lens. That would
do it.
That'll do it.
Give that blurry, sensual effect.
or some bowstring wax or something.
That'd work. Oh my goodness. Well, let's hear a weather report, folks. Mark, you start. How's the weather in Wyoming this morning?
Well, the wind's not blowing right currently. We got lots of snow. And
how warm is it?
My confuser says it's 19, but I think it's a little cooler than that. But
yeah, we may be getting its reading from Jackson. From somewhere else.
Well, we've got a local weather witch, and that feeds all the data to the National Weather Service and the Weather Channel. And
Ian said his coworker brought Dunkin' Donuts in for them today.
Nice.
Pass them all around, Ian. Did you tell him he might have to feed people from all over America and Canada? Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted you.
No, they're a little higher up the hill than they're a little higher in the valley than we are. So we get that settling cold, we get the inversion thing, and it's probably colder here at the house, but I think my thermometer says 13 right now. But
how's the wind though?
It's non-existent. Yesterday it was awful.
No wind?
Yeah, it's like it's like weird. I'm starting to be creeped out a little bit by it, but
hang on just a minute. I forgot to shut my door. I don't know if my wife's listening yet or not. Hang on just a minute.
so Ian, you're having cold too, buddy. Sorry about that. We've got deep snow and but it started to settle and it's getting where it's frozen on top and it's really hard on animals right now around here. Lots of elk in the river bottom and lots of moose and lots of deer, and the deer are dying already, which is a bad deal. So they don't usually die this early in the winter, and I'm worried about it, but
nothing you can do about that.
ain't nothing I can do about it. And then, we talked. I had quite the day yesterday,
Yes.
but my mare's on her feet this morning and eating, and I got to run into town and get some vet supplies.
Did you bandage that leg at all, or just medicine?
Yeah, I doctored her up. I put Furazone and a triple antibiotic on it, and then bandaged it up. But I didn't have any vet wrap or anything that I could really do a good job, so I'll get that today and get her rebandaged. But I'm sure she's gonna love that.
For informational and educational purposes, tell her, listen to this. This is going to be really cool for professional. Tell our listeners, Mark, what happened to your horse? How did that happen?
So we have these cool things. I don't know if they even have them back east.
Yeah, well, we have them, but rarely.
I know that I've heard of a famous joke about one of our former presidents that's name started with Clinton. That we have these structures called cattle guards, and Nebraskans call them auto gates, but they're a gate that's basically a great big giant grate that you put in the ground, and animals don't like to cross them because they look spooky and scary, and they are spooky and scary. And but the snow tends to drift them in and fill them up, even though it's not solid underneath them, and they still function. And sometimes animals decide, well, I can cross that because it's got snow on it now. I can cross over it. And I had a mare try to do that yesterday on a cattle garden, and both her back feet slipped down into the grate, and she cut her leg pretty bad. And so, I still don't understand how she cut herself because they're round bars. They got no sharp edges or anything, but horses will figure out a way to hurt themselves however they can.
Well, it could have been ice. She might have cut it on a shard of ice in that hole.
Yeah, maybe. I think she was just fighting. She probably just panicked for a minute and cut it. They're just so strong. And anyway, I went down there and stuck my face down by her back hooves, and popped her up out of there and got her across the gate and led her back to the house and did some living in the middle of nowhere vet work, and there you go. My vet won't be anywhere near me till Wednesday. So,
wow. You said he's pretty good ways off anyway, isn't he?
Yeah, he lives about an hour and a half from here. So So, but he comes to our little town once a week, and so he'll probably come out here and do a farm call for me, and And I don't know. It might at that point it might be too late to stitch her up. But I started to think about stitching her up, but it was blowing so hard and snowing so hard yesterday. It wasn't. Just didn't really have any opportunity to do that. So
Brenda had a question for you.
yeah, that's the mare that's pregnant too.
I used the word gravid yesterday, and she got all over me for being scientific.
Talking like a fish biologist,
I
but they or a herpetologist.
was going to say herpetologists use that term a lot too.
But yeah, she's in foal, and but she's on her feet and eating and walking around good. No swelling to speak of this morning. So so
Well, that's
far
a good
so good.
sign.
It's so cold there. I'm not really worried about too much happening to it, other than I just like to get it fixed properly.
Well, I guess one advantage to it being so cold is it ought to kind of keep the bugs and germs away, maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and that the cold is good for the swelling, and
Yeah.
so yeah, she looks good this morning, but it is what it is. It was just one of those days. My youngest grandson went into the hospital with our what am
RSV.
RSV. And so I drove to Green River an hour away to pick up their dog because they were all at the hospital and staying there. And then I got home and I wasn't home 15 minutes. And my wife said, I think the horses are trying to get out the North Cattle Guard. So I ran down there real quick, and one of them the Bobby Sox had already tried to get out the North Cattle Guard. And but I stopped any of the rest of them trying it, so that was good.
I think that's right. Brenda, is that right? Is it RSV? I think it is. I believe that's what it's called. It's the respiratory disease that's sweeping part of the country this winter. I mean, it's been around, and kids in daycare like to spread it and that sort of thing. It's sort of a community hobby they have at this time of year. But it's bad this year, and a lot of kids have gone to the hospital, which is where Mark's grandson Boone was or is, I guess, still, isn't he?
Yeah, he was. They kept him again last night. They're weaning him off of oxygen, and it's all moving positively so far. And yes, Mike, horses get tetanus shots. They get a really bad disease called foot and mouth, or not. They called it's lockjaw, and so tetanus is a problem with horse. You need to vaccinate horses with tetanus.
Brenda, before we rank your technical skills there, have you stayed in a Holiday Inn Express lately? She sent you a note about watching Dr. Paul. She knows all about fixing that. She said.
Just cut off the skin flaps and let it heal on its
That's
own.
what she said.
I'm a connoisseur of the man myself, Brenda, and I watch him religiously, and I know when like a goat has polio. I I can fix horses' flaps. I know how to scrub proud flesh, which I already knew, but anyway. I'll be doctoring this one for a while. It was a pretty good cut.
It's funny that
I'm just worried if she cut a tendon or something.
yeah, that'd be bad.
I can't find that she did, but there's a little one that runs down the front side of that cannon bone, and I didn't see that it's cut, but I don't know. Anyway,
let's hope not.
She walked on it fine yesterday till it got to hurting her, and then she kind of packed it around a little bit, but she's walking on it this morning. So,
well, that's good. Maybe that's a good sign. We'll say that's a good sign.
That's what we're gonna think. nothing but happy thoughts.
And that's really a shame. I mean, like you said, you actually got to breed her this year with another Morgan, and I know that's kind of waiting on that colt to come around is kind of an exciting thing, or I'm sure you're going to be.
Yeah.
And Mike said he's got half his workforce is off sick this week, or today, or whenever it was.
We got it running rampant through here too, just like
People are cooped up. They're staying close together, and these things start spreading around. It gets to be a train running through, and there's nothing you can do about it.
and I'm Wyoming people and other people, lots of other people are, kind of used to winter. But I can't remember a winter when people complain more than
This
this
one,
winter. Yeah,
that's wild, because to me, just been talking to you, this winter didn't seem like it really got started until later than usual.
it didn't. It was real late coming. We were real mild through the fall. And then, man, when it hit with a vengeance. And it's we have so much snow that people are just tired of it already. And most of the circles I run in, we're all older now, and we don't like winter like we used to.
That's true. It is. It seems to be my more favorable memories of winter from when I was a little bit younger. I do recall that.
Yeah, I mean, I used to like strap on a set of snowshoes and go walking for miles, and just thought it was wonderful. And my snowshoes haven't been off the wall in years. So,
Oh, do you see this? Brenda wants you to film the birth.
I'm not filming no goddamn horse birth.
Well, Brenda, you may just have to try to go out there and be there when it happens.
You might have to take your own pictures. I'm sure it will happen in the middle of the night when you don't know it's happening anyway, because that's how it normally happens. But yeah, I don't know if I can. That's kind of what it looks like in our country right now.
Good morning, Amy. Good to see you.
A lot of snow.
Well, you get a lot of drift too. I mean, Carol or Tina might get a lot of snow just coming down, but yours gets shifted around by so much wind all the time. So.
I'll do a tour again real quick. I don't know if you can see any of this or not, but yeah, we got drifts. Can you see drifts?
Yeah, I can see drifts.
There's drifts out. There's drifts out there 8 feet deep.
I was trying to see your greenhouse. Is it covered?
No, it's in a different spot.
Oh, okay. I thought I could see it out your window. There we going mobile again. Hot dog, I love it when we travel.
I'm moving. I don't know if this will work or not. The sun's shining weird, but.
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
You see the greenhouse?
Yeah, I thought it might be.
There's a big drift on it. And then look down the driveway. Can you see down the driveway?
I see big piles of snow.
Yeah.
Well, I would say stay in the house and stay warm, but I know you got doctoring to do and feeding to do, and
yeah,
you never know, you might have a skunk shooting to do. But
no, they're under.
Yeah, they're under right now. I'm sure they are. Mike said he's been jumping in and out of equipment and fogging everything down and trying to wipe everything down. So, well, I would say keep that up, Mike, until things get better, because that might be, you never know, that might be keeping you healthy. Yeah, and Carol said they got 13 inches last week, I believe it, or 9 or something. I can't. I'd have to run back up and find it, but
Well, I saw they were supposed to. We were talking about that. How
yeah,
they
they were supposed to, but you just never know where she's at. Some of that snow seems to miss them a little bit.
and I don't think mom and dad got much. They were supposed to, but I don't think they did. 8 inches.
Yeah, that's Brenda's. They would. That I don't. I guess this is federal, but they had rules that if your child has a fever of over a certain amount, you're supposed to not bring them in to daycares and stuff to try to prevent some of that spread. And parents learn real quick if you get some Tylenol in them, a lot of times that'll drive the fever down just enough to get you into school, and then they'll go off to work, and then the Tylenol wears off, and the kid fever jumps back up to 102.
Right.
And they didn't really help the workers much.
Well, Boone has been sick off and on, like almost once a week for months now. And that he goes to a daycare and there's always some kid that's got some epizootie.
Yeah. And how kids like to share.
Yeah, like, here, have some of this. This is cool.
Yeah. Here, you want a bite of my cheese?
So that poor boy's just been going back and forth. I mean, he had COVID for a while. He's had several stomach bugs that he brought home and shared with mom and daddy.
Ear infections, I remember those.
And he's just constantly got an ear infection, and he's got an ear infection right now with this RSV.
Which and not making him feel any better.
And then we got our granddaughter's got a stomach bug, and it's just like, what's going on?
Passing it around. Mike, what did you say the temperature was? And did you say was it minus 27? Was that Celsius or Fahrenheit? Just curious. I know minus 27 they're not the same. You got to get down to minus 40 before they even out.
Either way, that's cold.
Brenda, don't say why. I scared Teddy earlier. And I didn't want to admit, I'm not going to admit that in front of Carol, but being the head of the fan club, she may, send me nasty letters. Amy's up near Pittsburgh, and she said they got off and on rain and snow, and today's cold.
I hate that kind of weather.
Yeah. I would honestly rather have some snow as just off and on rain.
Yeah.
When it's this cold.
Especially when it's cold and it just like seeps right into the marrow of your bones.
Yeah, it does.
Celsius. Mike said Celsius.
Okay, so
because they believe in the metric system up there.
Yeah, well, they do. I realize that. But Mike, do you guys go by kilometers or miles per hour? And I ask that because I know Britain.
They do.
I believe Britain uses metric system on a lot of things, but they don't when it comes to cars and mileage and speed. They use miles per hour.
I think they do kilometers up there, Tim. Anytime I've been to Canada, the speed limit was in kilometers per hour. Negative 60.6 Fahrenheit.
No.
Take that, English system.
That's not right, is it? I'm not doubting Mike. I'm not.
We'll go through the 5/9 formula. BS thing you got to do, or
Well, I know, but
9/5 or whatever you got
at
to do.
-40,
5/8 or
hey, John, welcome in, buddy. At -40 Fahrenheit and Celsius, even up. And then they will start spreading again. So -27 couldn't be -60.
I had a friend go to Canada he was driving up to Alaska on the Alcan to go to a cruise. I mean, he was going to get on aboard ship in Alaska and then come back to Seattle. And they were on a bus, and they were with a bunch of other Wyoming hayseeds. And somebody was like, "Well, look, it was when Obama was president." And somebody said, "Well, look how cheap gas is up here." And my buddy was like, "Well, that's per liter. That's not a gallon."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Well," and they was talking about how that Obama stimulus money must not have got in place in Canada. It's like, well, you're in a whole different country. They were from Rock Springs. They couldn't help it. So
Okay, they couldn't help herself.
wind chill 7 in Michigan.
Yeah. Mike and Ian might not feel as much sympathy for you, Carol, but I do. I know that's getting chilly. I made a run this morning and I had the window down on the car, and it was, I think the thermometer in the car said it was 31. And
Ooh.
I know you no sympathy for me.
Let's go swimming.
I don't expect any sympathy. I wasn't asking for it. I was just saying
That's good. That's good because you ain't getting any.
I ain't getting none.
That's a statement you will never have heard us say recently. Is I had the window down in the car.
Yeah. Well, you probably can't get them down. They're frozen. I used to like to go to work, or not go to work like this, but you can roll the window down and it's a solid sheet of ice and it just stays there. You can flip it out. But even then, it wasn't as cold as it is out there. As a friend of mine used to say, he'd ask you, he said, "Is it colder in the South than it is in the summertime?" So maybe I should ask you guys, or hotter in the South than it is in the summer. Maybe I should ask you if it's colder in the Northwest than it is in the summer or winter. How much snow did you get, Mark?
Yesterday?
I guess my buddy,
John
has a buddy in Jackson. He said he got some yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, John. It was snowing, but it was blowing so hard. Who knows? I suspect only a couple inches of that.
But Jackson tends to get more than you guys anyway.
Yeah, so they're up in the northwest corner. Well, I'm in the southwest corner, and they're in the northwest corner, and they have calmer winds than we do, but they get a lot more snow typically.
Yeah.
But we're rivaling them this year with snow depth. So
you see what Brenda's put up there? She's
you call to get a snail off if you're a hermit crab. I don't know the answer to
that. She's got a hermit crab. It's got a pretty good sized shell on it, and it will get algae on the shell. So every once in a while, she's got these big old snails that clean algae off the inside of the aquarium and stuff, and they climb up on the snail shell or the crab shell, and they're just about too big for him to get away out from under. And of course, when they get a hold of him, they don't want to let go till they get cleaned. That's how they eat.
Well, maybe that's okay.
Well, it probably is okay from their perspective, but
are they bigger than he is?
They're bigger than he is. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
or at least a couple. The one that I'm sure the one that's on him right now is I think I've got some pictures somewhere. I got a video of the pistol shrimp in action this week, and I got to figure if I can post them up there. But that little creature is one of the most amazing animals I have ever watched. He manipulates the sand and the gravel and the substrate of that aquarium like somebody on a John Deere or a Caterpillar bulldozer or something. It's amazing to watch, and he'll pick up stones and which to him are big, and move them up the hill and drop them. He'll set them in positions, and he'll make this ramp, and he's got down in the ramp is where their hidey hole chambers are. And it's just amazing to watch. And it's like he'll come up and push a bunch of rocks over and then back up. I swear, once in a while, I'll hear beep, beep, beep. Get back down in the hole, and here will come back out. And it's just like a bulldozer, moving stuff up. And he holds his claws somehow, if you can imagine them being like this, and pushes up and lets go and everything. And he puts it where he wants it. And then inside, if you look down in the tunnels, I mean, it's almost like he has them braced up. And
probably does.
I mean, how do he know? I mean, it is just crazy. And then at night they'll have this hole. Now it's not this big, mind you, but it looks huge. But I mean, it might be this big. And then the hole's right kind of down in the back part, and then it'll slope up to it'll ramp up to the entrance. But at night he'll close it. He just starts stacking stones in the front till it's closed off. And I guess that's how they protect themselves. I sent you a picture on Instagram. Okay, I'll do that, Mike. Oh, he is smarter. He's smarter than a lot of people, Tina. I mean, I believe he's an engineer. I don't know where they go to get their degree. Tina, I don't know about the sandhill crane. Might be a little bit big. If I can figure out a way to put that up here in a minute, I might see if I can't show that video. Hang on just a minute.
That's a squirrel.
It is, but we're talking about it. I don't have any. Oh, and Carol would define this as a squirrel because I don't think I have any visual aids for it. Hang on, I'm going to somewhere right here amongst all my stuff that I've moved around this past week because I'm moving stuff. I have another cable. It's the one I use just for this purpose. But of course, at this moment, I'm not seeing that cable. So now I don't know where am it? Oh, here it is. Now, let me see if I can do this. It is fascinating to watch him. I was watching him last night, and I mean, you could if he's working at the entrance. It sounds like I'm talking about a person. But
now, hold on. You ain't going to start the history of the car seat talk again, are you?
No.
Okay.
No. Okay, I gotta apologize for the car seat talk going too far. Last week, it got more involved than I ever dreamed it would be. Choose what happens on this device. I want to view the files. Tim's ST. That sounds like my old pickup. Let me turn my camera back on. It sounds like my old pickup, Mark, an S10. Well, you had one too, for that matter.
It was the same color, even.
It was true. It was just a different year model. Naturally, this probably won't work today because I'm.
Ian says now he knows more about car seats than he ever thought.
Well, I thought it'd be kind of funny, and I laughed all the way through it. But I guess it did run a little long. I get to talking, and it takes me too long. I can't help it. Well, only humans have decided a piece of paper makes you smarter. Well, that's true too, Tina. Brenda's still talking about her snail. That he gets hung upside down in every which way and he fights to get away. Yeah, he rolls. That crab will roll all over trying to get that snail off his back, but he usually can't do it. But once those snails latch on, I mean, they're like suction cups. They and when they leave, Tina has decided
it's open chat. Didn't we have a subject?
I do have a subject, and I'm getting ready to open it, but we're just talking, and I remember.
But it ain't about pistol shrimps.
No, it's not. Okay, I get the hint. We're going to talk.
No, there's no hint if you want to show pistol shrimp videos.
Well, I can't get it to come on anyway. I probably haven't downloaded the right software to do that yet. I've got to reload whatever it is that comes with my phone. Oh, Brenda, are you saying everybody left? I might be in trouble already. Mark said it's going to be like the car seat and everybody went away. Tina enjoyed the car seat discussion. Thank you, Tina.
They didn't leave.
I don't think they did either. Carol says, wise call since I haven't heard a word about children's books yet. I'm working on it. All right, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to get it ready. I'm going to put it over here, and I'm going to make it great big. And I'm going to come back. Oops. Hey, a little secret about that. How did I do that? Okay, hang on. I'm still getting used to this computer a little bit. Present. Share screen. That screen. All right, now we're about to have official slides and such. And come on. And I set this first screen up for Mark.
Possum comes a knocking.
This was one of Mark's youngest favorite books. And go ahead.
She loved that book.
I had never heard of this book.
Well, it's a book of our people, buddy.
I know. You're right. I know that, but I just had never heard it. I never heard the book. I never heard about the book.
It's a wonderful book.
I'm trying to. This is another new thing about my.
You should read a stanza. Or whatever.
Well, I can't do it right now.
Can't do it right now. Darn it.
I will before the day's over, though.
I don't have a copy of it here. I would
oh, God forbid. I thought you might have had a copy for your.
Hi. Well, we got dogs are awake. Lots of dogs. The grand dog's here today, and he's a little special, and he might bark a few times during the whole deal, but my daughter bought the nephew a copy of it, Boone, a copy of Possum Come a Knocking because that was her favorite book. It's a wonderful book.
Guys, I have messed up again.
Where'd you go?
Well, what can you see right now?
I just see like your whole desktop, like a bunch of layers.
Oh, that's what I was afraid of.
And
All
you and
right.
you and I are over on the side in little pictures.
Uh-oh.
And
I might have just really
And
screwed
there's
up.
like 4 million open tabs on your computer,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's
it's
because I've
stacking
been.
and stacking and stacking and stacking. That's what's happening.
Well, let me start all over again if I didn't just screw the pooch. Nothing meant there to offend any dogs in the room. It's covering up my screen. When I turn it on now and try to show it, it's covering up my screen so I can't see the chat or you. So
And
whatever, if
what
you,
I see now is you and I just in the normal
yeah, me
deal
too right now.
with the chat on the side. And a little icon down at the bottom that says, "You're in the show,"
Crap.
which is totally unnecessary.
Because you know you're there.
Yeah. So what if I hit this blue button down here that says "having issues?" question mark?
I don't know.
Will that fix it?
No, it won't fix it now because I just erased all my slides.
Oh no. For real?
I've still got everything in my back folders, but yeah, is there a way to is
Well,
there a
how
way to
did you
get it
do
back?
that?
Oh, I'm not I'm not having the best of days. Is there an option to just share the
It's
tab?
it's a
Yeah, but that's not well. I'm going to end up doing something like that, Carol, because I'm going to just open up my books. All right, I'm going to have to do this the old-fashioned way, so bear with. I'll get it ready, and then I'll.
Uh-oh. John's having Pepe Le Pew problems. No possums, but he's having skunk issues.
Uh-oh. Okay, all right. This is like I said. This is going to have to be the old-fashioned way here.
And John, we're lucky. We're luck. I gotta think a winter sometimes is a lucky deal because when it gets for real winter here, we don't have skunks. They go night night.
So I was going to talk about books today, and I might be able to run through here. I'm going to just pull this one up first, and hopefully I can see these well enough down here to pick out the ones I want to. So Mark and I were talking about this the other day, and we were just talking about books we read as kids and what the kids read today, or when they do read, which unfortunately they don't always read that much. Um, so we were trying to think, what made us grow up to want to be.
The wild and exciting people we are
Yeah,
today.
yeah. I've got the wild part. The exciting part still eluding me a little bit. But one such book was this one right
Well,
here.
that is without a doubt, my favorite book of all times. I read it at least once a year, still to this day.
And it's really a classic example of books that were written at a time when um, people obviously felt like this sort of thing was important, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But and I know that part of this was because people like Ernest Thompson Seton, or Ernest Seton Thompson, whichever one you knew. And I'll tell that, we can tell that in a minute, but I guess that ETS is actually is the correct way to do his name. Him and his father had a great falling out, and he didn't like his father much. And so when he started writing books, he changed his name. Writing, and well, he wrote papers and things too. But he changed his name over to Ernest Seton Thompson because he didn't want to have the last name of Seton anymore, and because of his father. But eventually he did change it back to Thompson Seton, which is the way it was supposed to be.
And Mike, he was a Scotsman that ended up in Canada, and he spent much of his life in Canada, all of his formative years at least, and then clear up till he was probably a middle-aged man. He lived in Canada, and then he went, and I don't know what just happened there.
Oh, I did that. Never mind.
Then he went to the States, and he's one of the founders of the Boy Scouts of America.
Yeah, he in fact, he's one of maybe the major founder in the United States.
Yeah, he was taken after, what was the guy from Britain?
Lord Baden-Powell.
Baden-Powell, yeah.
Baden-Powell is given credit for starting the Boy Scouts in England, and then Ernest Thompson Seton and some others brought it over here. In fact, Ernest Thompson Seton started an organization called the
Woodcraft Indians.
Woodcraft Indians in the area where he lived at that time, which I guess was still Canada. Didn't he end up moving down around?
He was up in the northeast U.S. when he started the Woodcraft.
Yeah, that's what, in Connecticut or New Hampshire or somewhere up in there. And Tina says, Carol can tell you that there's a direct correlation between parents reading to their kids. I don't know if this, yeah, there it is. Reading to their kids and the kids doing better in school. Better attention span, better vocabulary, better listening, on and on. I agree, Tina.
I do too. 1,000%.
And Tina says, I sure wish parents would read real, but you know, we're getting to a point now, Tina, and maybe we already are. Carol might be able to answer this too, but I think we're to the point now where parents of children didn't read either, or weren't read to. They're getting to the point now where it's not a passed on tradition. It's about gone in a lot of places. I worry that it is. And so, you know, to get that started back may take more than a small bit of effort, I guess.
Well, when we were talking yesterday, you know, we were talking about Possum Come Knocking and various Dr. Seuss books, and my daughter being very Sheldon-like,
yeah,
from The Big Bang Theory, and Dad sometimes was tired, and I'd skip a whole page and just keep reading, and she would pick that up, and she was just little then. She'd pick that up instantly and like, no, you need to start all over. You need to go back to the beginning and start.
I love that part. And these things were not, I mean, this was not uncommon, but a lot of books were written for kids back then. We had series. I've got pictures that I decided not to try to use, although I might now, of a bookshelf or two that are filled with books for kids. And they were books written about different things. Some of them were historically based. Some of them were just based. I found one interesting series that I thought I never had seen before, and it was called the Outdoors Girls. And it was all about these friends, these three girls that hung out and went to camp They took adventures together. They went camping up in the mountains. They went canoeing. They took a trip in a car, which was a little weird, but back then it wasn't. That was an adventure back then. And then we had books like Tom Swift, and I'll get to those in a second. But they really wrote books for kids, and a series of books. And I know we have children's books today. I'm not sure they're as serious because some of these books had messages and taught skills. Like, for example, here's one. Let me get the right one. That one. Yeah, that one will work. I'm gonna pull that one up. Here's somebody that Mark really liked, and had several of these Ben Hunt books. And this one happens to be by somebody else too. I'm trying to get over here where I can. I've got a couple more of his.
I still have all those books.
Yeah, I know.
I still refer to them occasionally.
Well, where's the other ones at? Dang it! I just had these few minutes.
Oh,
there's a good one, for example.
Come here, buddy. Newt.
Abby started it.
Come here, Newt. Come here, bud.
That's a grand dog.
That's the grand dog. He's
So
good.
anyway,
Come here, buddy. Come here and meet the folks.
Those are good examples of stuff that Mark read. And then I grew up reading a series of books by this guy. Well, a couple of his books. I didn't know how many he had written back then.
Well, sorry, bud.
Hey, Newt.
That's a dog.
Yeah, that's a dog. What is he?
He's a Chesapeake Bay Retriever.
Has he got curly hair?
Oh yeah. And you stink too, bud. Thank you.
Here's another book. Here's a book that's got a lot of controversy about it amongst Disney people right now.
And I love those books. I absolutely love those books. And the Song of the South. I didn't see it as anything but positive for everybody involved personally. I love those books.
I'm not sure at this point, and I'm not trying to start an argument in here about it, but I'm not even sure if that's got as much to do with why they're changing that ride as at Disney World and Disneyland is just the fact that maybe they're trying to bring it into a movie that kids are more familiar with. But I'm not going to go down that path. And anyway, that's a book written. He wrote that book in the late 1800s, and several more like it. Then you also had things like I believe this one. Oops, let's don't use that one.
Well, that's a little one.
Here's a bunch.
That's a little. How would you read that book?
With a magnifying glass.
You got that in a box of Cracker Jacks.
This is a whole set of Tom Swift books. And Tom Swift he was a young man out and about. I mean, he was always on an adventure. And I've read several of these growing up, but I own the Tom Swift and the motorcycle, naturally. That came back out in reprint a few years ago, and I bought a copy when it did. And then, I read some of these, like there's one in here. Here's one called the Air Scout, about airplanes. House on Wheels, where he was traveling around in some kind of type of motorhome. Submarine Boat. I read that one years ago. So, I mean, Tom Swift was always into new inventions and things that were kind of fresh on the scene back then.
He was a techno geek guy.
Kind of, yeah, to a degree. And then later on, actually, there were later versions of Tom Swift that did actually get into the more techno geek stuff, really out in space. Tom Swift in outer space. But anyway, I've got a couple of Tom Swift books. And of course there was Nancy Drews, and I'm hung up on Tom Swift here. Let me see. Here's a book about, what most people might consider great Americans, or famous Americans at least. And John J. Audubon, Franklin. And I grew up reading stuff like this for the history. And I just screwed that pooch up, didn't I?
Well, I just figured out that dragons love tacos.
Well, there's more to that. And for example,
what is that?
Farting like no otter. And this apparently is a common topic of discussion amongst certain children or certain age groups. I'm not quite sure who, but I found this book, and I found
a current book.
Huh?
That's got to be recent.
Oh yeah, that's what I was getting to. These are more recent books, and here's one. But I mean, I think it's good that the lowly dung beetle gets a book. I mean, he's probably about as misunderstood as anybody. I mean, and look, he's got a dirty job, kind of like Mike.
I'm gonna tell my buddy Steve that he's. I might have to procure a copy of that for a friend of mine.
Oh, really? See a dung beetle?
Well, he's a Steve.
Well, it's for sale on Amazon.
He's my favorite supervisor ever. And we're both retired, and I might have to find a copy of that for him.
Well, let's see here. We got two about dragons that I thought were very good. This one first. Dragons are a big topic these days. Hey, Dean, welcome in, buddy. I didn't see you there. Let me go back and see if I've missed anybody else here real quick.
We lost John. He Dad was calling.
Oh, okay. Dragons love tacos, which I didn't realize.
Well, you would think they would.
Well, you're probably right there.
Probably the spicier the better.
But it leads to this. Dragons also love farts. And I read in the book, I really read a different copy of the book that said dragons love farts even better than tacos. But the one I copied here didn't say that.
They would never have put that word in a children's book in our day.
No, but children need. Here's something that was cool when we first went to Animal Kingdom in Disney World and went out to Rafiki's Planet Watch. They had a vet center out there and a lot of information about animals. And when you went into the bathrooms by the stalls and over the urinals, and they all had little factoids and tidbits about, animals poop too. And it kind of explained that, and animals urinate too. And it kind of explained that. I thought it's kind of interesting.
And Mike loves tacos.
Tacos are my favorite. Well, Dean, I was just showing representation of. Dean wants to know what's with the fart books. Just a representation of some of the.
Because he ain't got no sense
these days.
Diana said, I thought donuts were your favorite.
Well, now we're mixing two different food groups there, Diana. There's a taco group, and then there's a donut group. One is a early
one's
part
a breakfast food.
Yeah, one's a breakfast food and coffee break food, and the other one is sustenance. It's for important times.
Man, we have gone down the squirrel hole now.
Well, but I got slides. And let me see if I can pull up my next one here.
Well,
Oh,
you got pictures.
I got pictures. No, I was just pulling those up, Dean, because they were just new in the kids section of new books, and I guess explaining those kind of things. I mean, let me tell you, Squirrel. Let me tell you a quick story about farting. And I'm not that kind of a guy. Honestly, it's a little bit embarrassing for me, but my buddy Dave that I used to work with used to tell me this story. He loved to tell this story, but when he was in graduate school, he was requested to come to a meeting. We all had to do these kinds of things, meet and greet with other faculty and other people that could come to the university. Sometimes they'd be potential teachers or maybe even just more grad students, but you'd been, invited along to what's the word?
Show off your wares.
Well, that's what I would say. What do they call it when you're out there making contacts and you have people, around the country, you're networking. So you go out and do these things, and he went to one of these such meetings one day, and he was walking around and had stopped to talk to somebody, and he said just beside him he noticed these two professors, and they were kind of gray and had on the tweed jackets, that professors used to wear all the time, and the suede sleeves. I mean, you could see them with a big pipe and sitting in a corner with a little wreath of smoke around their heads, coming up with wisdom and how atoms are made and that kind of stuff. And the conversation he overheard went something like this. They started chuckling, and one of them said to the other one, "You know what? He said, farts are just funny." So maybe books like this are to teach kids that, basically we all do it, and it's either funny or just ignore it. I'm not sure which, but they said he just looked and walked away. He said he never would have suspected those two guys to be discussing that topic.
I can remember scoring systems discussed in a teepee.
Yeah, well, that's true. I don't know.
That one gets a 10 for lingering effect alone.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, my.
Try not to be in an elevator when somebody farts. Brenda says farts are funny. Dean says don't fart in an elevator. And Brenda says try not to be in the elevator if somebody does. Tina, that's what I'm going to change the subjects. I never dreamed that would go that far off the rails. And a lot of us know this story. If we never read the book, Disney made a cartoon about this. Ferdinand the Bull.
I never read that to the kids at all. We didn't even know about it.
I didn't read the book. We had the cartoon on,
and then it came out on Disney, and it was like, well, where'd that book come from?
But it was an old story. It's been around a while. And you talked about liking this book or story.
That's a great book right there.
And that's a book I never read growing up. I didn't know about this till the movie came out. And people said, "Oh yeah, that's that great book about," and I'm like, "What book? What did I miss?" Let's see. I think I showed one of these, but this guy, I grew up hunting this guy's books, and one of my biggest thrills was being able to go to Jonesboro had a small public library at that time. It was in the old Chester Inn building. And I found a couple of books by this guy. Of course, I never realized that this was one of them. And they were all about the frontier. And of course, it was more of a hero thing, but they had a group of pioneers or frontiersmen who ran together and helped guard the frontier from British and whoever they they happened to be fighting at the time.
Roving bands of wild Indians.
But it wasn't always, though. It was a lot of. There was a couple of them were about French and Indian War, and then British. This is another one. This is a group of He wrote 4 or 5 books in each of these topics, and I only got to read a few of them back then. I've got several of these collections now on my telephone as a Kindle books, because I could get them for like 99 cents.
Masters of the Peaks.
Yeah, and he wrote one about cowboys. Texans that dealt with the Alamo and some other things. He wrote a series about the Civil War, which might pop up in here in a minute. I don't know. And then I found this other guy in the library at Jonesboro. David Taylor wrote this book, Farewell to Valley Forge and the Sycamore Man. And at that time, that was the only 2 books I knew he had written. But then later, I've learned he's got more, and I've got at least 4 of his books on my shelf now that are original copies that I bought online, like from used bookstores and things like that. And I really liked his books.
I think I checked that book out at Jonesboro.
You might have, and it's a good book. And going back to the days of yore, here was another series that was out there, the Brighton Boys with the Battle Fleet. And the Brighton Boys, several of these books were written like during World War One, so they're somewhat related to that. And I think one of the reasons that some of these books were written back then was they were trying to prepare young men to do that sort of thing. Here's the other one, and this is one I picked up later. Farewell to Valley Forge. That's another Taylor book. And there's Lights Over the Across the Delaware. I've got one more that's not on here. That's called Charge the Ramparts or something. It's the end of the Revolutionary War. This series was all about the Revolution. This was the first book. And this book is all about what led up to Washington crossing the Delaware. The Sycamore Men was about the war in the Revolutionary War in the South. And a lot of it was Francis Marion. So those kind of guys were my heroes growing up, I guess you could say, if I was on that side. And when I wasn't reading about Tecumseh or somebody like that, who I couldn't help but, admire. And fortunately, these books aren't all gone. Here's an example of a new version of a new printing of Two Little Savages. Came out just a few years ago, I guess, or maybe several years ago. And I know that Mark has bought this, I believe, and I bought a copy of it I bought a copy and sent it to you for boom.
You bought me 2 copies.
Yeah.
And I gave one to each of the boys, the grandsons.
And this book's not really about savages, but it's all about 2 young boys that sort of were flung together by circumstances. And one was a farm kid that grew up on the farm, and one was a city kid. And at first they kind of clashed until they figured out they had, one of them had been out in the woods all his life and never thought much about it. And the other one had done nothing but think about it because he was stuck in the city, so he couldn't do these things. And Mark could tell it a lot better than I could. But anyway, I think it just got lots of good life stories in it about, how they adapted and got along. And it's kind of I don't know if it kind of leads up to what Seton did with the
Woodcraft
Indians, yeah, and then the Boy Scouts. So I'm glad that book's back out there. I'm glad that young people can read that book. And let's see here. I didn't get a copy of Tom Swift again.
The electric rifle.
Yeah, and I don't know what that was exactly. And then I found, well, I told you about the camping girls or outdoor girls, and for some reason, I did not get a copy of that book. And I believe that's all. That was a copy or a picture of the. There's another old book. You can tell by the clothing, which I thought was interesting. Oh, where'd that go? No. Oh, here it is. This was he wrote Scheller wrote this book as a Civil War kind of a. No, I wouldn't say a soft version of the Civil War for kids, but I mean these books were probably written for young adults, but I still read them every once in a while because I find them relaxing just to read some of this stuff, and just like Two Little Savages or something. It's when I read a book like this about history or Two Little Savages about that, then that's a relaxation moment for me and a soothing place. I used to in college. I'm going to shut this down now because that's all the books I think I got. In college, when I was going to have a big exam or something, I used to just get a copy of my books, or not a copy of my books. Hang on a minute. Let me restate this. Rewind. I'd always take a book with me that I really liked to read. It might have been an Uncle Remus book, or it could have been one of these books. And I'd sit and read instead of sitting in the hall cramming for a test like all my classmates were doing. I'd sit there and just read a book. And it was a book like this, and I didn't have to spend a great deal of time looking for the message or whatever. It didn't occupy my mind. It just let me be somewhere else, kind of. And so I would go into a test much more relaxed than most of them did. And I found it helpful. Now, of course, I was 20 years older than everybody else I was sitting there with, but maybe someday they figured that out too, or maybe some of them will. But anyway, that kind of reading was important to me, and I really do feel like we're losing that. Tina, made a good point, and then Tina says, "Whew, thanks. I didn't know squirrels traveled in packs." Oh, Tina, they did. They used to travel in great herds. That's true. Called a caught winner back in the day. Which one was that? I missed it. Ian read something to the kids. I don't know which one was which. TP scoring. Sounds great. I'm catching up, guys, so pardon me for a minute. I'm sure I missed some good stuff here. Those great days of yore. Yeah, Ian, they weren't always so perfect as we were led to believe. And I realized that a long time ago, but didn't mean the books weren't enjoying to read, for me at least. And I know Mark read voraciously, and my mom used to holler at me because I'd be down in the woods somewhere behind the house reading a book, and because I could sneak off down there and do that, pretty much uninterrupted, unless some wild critter got involved, and then that would run me off like a squirrel. Tina would run by. Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why I'm still chasing them.
A squirrel would run by and grab your attention,
yeah, for example,
and you might get some supper out of the deal.
And you might get some supper out of the deal. That's right. Oh me.
Mama'd be making dumplings later that night.
Fried squirrel and dumplings. Oh yeah, wasn't that who was the guy's name that wrote that book? Ian, do you remember? Mark?
Maurice Sendak?
No. The wild things are.
Maurice Sendak.
Oh, okay.
I saw an episode of what's that show? That silly show out in Las Vegas with the Pawn Stars, and they come upon a whole collection of his original drawings from that book, and man, did they go for a lot of money.
Oh, I bet. Well, speaking of that, let me grab something real quick. Turn my camera off for a second so I can get up and wobble over here. Ugh. Damn knee. Pardon my French. Wonder why they say that. Reckon why we say pardon my French when we cuss. For me, I've always thought it'd be more appropriate to say pardon my Marine Corps language, or pardon my naval language, or my aircraft mechanic language. Because most of them could outcuss most sailors. My wife surprised me this week with a gift. And this was another thing that Ernest Thompson Seton was famous. He illustrated all of his books. And Brenda found these pictures. Let me see if I can get it. I don't know. Can you see it there? Or is that too much glare? Wait a minute. I'm not taking out this plastic. It's in a plastic archival folder. Let me see if I can get it out here without destroying anything. I've been on a Ernest Thompson Seton hunt ever since. And I have to say, I got turned on by Ernest Thompson Seton probably through Mark and his dad. I didn't grow up with one of those books, even though I'd been to a museum named for him and loved that. But I didn't realize just how important he was going to be in my life down the road. There's a museum at Philmont Scout Ranch out in New Mexico that has, I don't know if they've got every Seton book in it, but it turns out he wrote a lot. He's very prolific. But he did his own artwork, and this is an example of that. This is a buffalo calf that he drew. And it's cool to me because he's got lots of details around the margins there. Drawing an ear in a different position, or you can see where up here maybe he started and then decided not to go any further with that and might come down here. And but it just, the name of it was just, I think, bison calf. And then on the other side of this is a javelina, or a peccary that runs that these things live in the South American Southwest, and they're a lot like cats in that when they get like this, they do trickery stuff, and they'll run up and grunt real big and look like they're 3 times as big as they really are. And it makes people jump straight up in the air in the brush and go, "Hey!" Personal story there.
When you call them in with a predator call.
Yeah, and boy, did they come. Come
It'll
faster.
make you jump clear off the ground. Well,
I was a little worried about you there, buddy.
I thought that one had me.
I thought that one had you too. And I was trying to get the camera ready because I didn't want to miss it. But he got there. He got there so fast. It was unbelievable. And you know that thing wasn't that close to you when it started.
No, remember they'd run across that flat
Yeah.
all the way across hundreds of yards.
To that little
And
ridge.
I'm like, well, I have heard that if you squeal on a predator call, they might come back to you. And boy, did he.
Boy, did he ever. Well, a couple of them kind of turned around once they got the group, the family group or whatever they call it. Well, I don't know what they're called. Not a herd, I don't guess.
A sounder.
Sounder.
Well, I mean, they're basically a little hog.
Oh. Well, they got them all kind of herded up over by that little ridge or bankment or whatever it was. And then a couple of them turned around to face you. And they did the trickery act. And then that one was evidently the king pecuary for that moment. And he turned and he lit back out after. Well, he didn't even know it was you. He just heard that call, which I thought was wild.
Yeah, he thought that a piglet was something had a piglet.
I guess that's what it was. He thought something had caught one of their bunch, and man, he come back and he ran there right up on Mark quicker than you can say lickety split, just about. I was trying to get a camera set up because the whole point of doing it was we were trying to get some, pictures of these things if they reacted to the predator call, and it all happened so fast. I think the only thing I got was a blur, maybe a black blur, and then Mark going like this, and I did. I thought he was going to nail you before you even saw him coming. Mark was hunkered down in the sage grass and sage bushes or whatever. Woo!
Those good times.
It was good times, yeah. And those are some of the things that we could talk about of how in the world did we ever survive, which is what we meant to talk about the other day. Brenda says porky era sounds good. Technically, they look like a pig, but they're not, which is just to me strange. But
they're closely related, though. They're not suids; they're tassisuids. So, I mean, they're more closely related to pigs than anything else.
Okay, I was thinking they were related to something else more than pigs, but people call them pigs.
I used to have people call me at work when I worked in the Southwest and ask me if it was true they were the world's largest rodent.
Well, I could see that.
And I'm like, no, that would be the capybara from South America. That is not a javelina. Which is an ungulate, well, split-toed, cloven-hooved creature.
Brenda also found me a new book the other day, and I could walk over and get that too, but I'll save you that boredom. But she got these things for me and then said, "Oh, happy birthday, by the way," which my birthday's not for a couple of months. So I'm all done for my birthday already. So
you're set.
I'm set. Yep. But that book was beautiful. I mean, it was another great version of a Seton book that she found. Let me go get it. I can't resist. It's too nice.
Tina, javelinas are native to the U.S. and Mexico and Central America and parts of South America. There's, I think, 3 species. We have the smallest, the They call it the collared peccary, or javelina. And then there's a white lip peccary and another peccary down in South America. But capybaras are not native to the U.S. They're just South American critters.
I'm on my way back.
Come here, Boudreaux. Come here, Boudreaux.
Is that drone barking?
That's Newt.
Oh, Newt, huh?
That's Newt. That's Newt being Newt.
Okay. 15, as Jeff says from This Our Dream, 15 points for whoever can tell me where the name Newt came from in this case.
Do I get it?
No, you can't do it.
I can't. I don't get to play.
No, I don't have anything new necessarily trying to clear out. So I have a. Oh, she's talking about her aprons.
Newt quit.
They're not. They're not really. Well, Mark's already told you. Here's the book she found. This was called The Arctic Prairies. Now, this had to be one of his later books, and I never heard of this book and never seen this book until I was at college at the University of Tennessee, and I found some little hidden treasures on a bookshelf one day, and just searching through for books I might enjoy, and I found a couple of his books, and this was one that had. And somewhere I've got the card. We used those. If the book had been there long enough and had been on the shelf long enough and hadn't been checked out in a long enough period of time, in the card slot in the back, it still had computer punch card. That's how old. That's how long it had been. And that book hadn't been checked out of the library since 1975, I think, or 73. So it'd been over 20 years by the time I read it. And the librarian told me that they take those cards out and throw them away when they find a book like that. They still find them sometimes. So I asked them if I could have the card. So somewhere here I got in one of my Seaton books, I have that punch card as a bookmark, and she let me have it, or he let me have it, whoever it was. I can't remember now, but this book's actually even got a few photographs in it. Not that you can see that, but that's a herd of caribou, and a lot of Seaton drawings, but there's also scattered black and white photos in here. So this is a really cool book.
I think he was working in northern Manitoba then.
Might have been, and he was.
I recall, or northern Saskatchewan, maybe.
The lake was. He went voyage to the region north of Almer Lake. So I don't know how far north that was at the time, but it's 2,000. They did a 2,000-mile canoe trip in search of the caribou. I think they were actually doing surveys.
Right.
Trying to count the caribou, and he was with several other people. It was him, I think a native or a First Nations person by the name of Wiso, E.A. Preble, and W.C. Lutet. That also sounds native. It was a cool book. If you were into this sort of thing.
Was an American or
a
U.S. Biologist.
And here's something else I like about these old books, and some people will disagree with me, I'm sure, because there is a mindset that this damages the book or makes it less valuable or something. I don't know. But this book has two things in it. One is this sticker, and it says Fred Lutry. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. His book. And over here is his signature. And I love it when I get one that says Merry Christmas to Allison on your, 12th Christmas, 1922 or something.
Right.
And I've got a couple of those too. And I don't know, that makes them personal to me. It makes me feel like I get to take care of it for somebody else. I hope when I die that somebody gets them that wants them. So if you're still alive when I pass, Mark, you get these. You can give them out to your kids. I think I've got 14 originals right so far. They're not all very
I hate the thought of a good book just disappearing. And I'm sure millions of copies of great books have done that. But
yeah. Did you see what Diana said up here? Oh, Mike had to leave us. Diana, are you still with us? Mike had to go run some errands and sneak in and get some donuts, maybe. And air conditioning.
A capybara is about the size of a medium-sized hog.
Yeah, they get really big.
They're bigger than a sheep. So it's a huge rodent.
Leave it to my wife to find the reason to not eat a guinea pig. She says they're like Pez dispensers, constantly dispensing poop.
Why are we talking about guinea pigs?
Well, if they're talking about pets, and that was right after the Diana said something about her son wanting a capybara.
Which is a heck of a lot bigger than a guinea pig.
A heck of a lot bigger. I don't know how well they would do in the cold of Canada.
So a beaver, beaver can get up to like 80 or 90 pounds.
Yeah.
And they're the second largest rodent. And capybaras get up like 120, 130, something like that.
Wow.
They're a fair sized critter. They're semi-aquatic, but they stand much more erect than a beaver would. They got longer, stronger legs, and spend a lot of time grazing.
Do they eat aquatic plants mostly, or do they get out and eat on grass and stuff?
They eat lots of grasses and forbs and things on the land, and then they also eat aquatic plants. Probably the number one prey, maybe the number one prey item for jaguars in South America.
That makes sense. They live in the same habitat.
Yeah.
If you don't know, jaguars are one of the few cats who seem to
They love the water.
Love the water. They hunt and live in water practically. Are guinea pigs really pigs? No, they're not, Tina. They're a rodent. I don't know who they're related to, and that I'd have to look that up, but they're not pigs. They are good to eat, I understand. I've said that several times to people, and they give me funny looks. But
that's why they were domesticated.
To eat.
Yeah, the Incans raised them as they lived in their houses with them, but then they were food.
They, from what I understand, in that part of South America where they're from, they are considered something of a delicacy. They grill them, they cook them, they barbecue them. I mean, they cook them several ways, and they actually look okay. I would think they're related to a squirrel, Tina. I think.
Yeah, they're rodents.
So I would think they would be related to them distantly, at least. They don't do the tree thing, but they are. Most people can't imagine eating their pet, but seems to me like Carol. Don't you have some at school? It seems like I remember her bringing them home over a break or something to take care of them. Okay, so yep, squirrels in more ways than one. Ian says he had a friend who had guinea pig in Peru. Oh, did they eat it? Ian, was he fodder for the table?
He also said he had a Brazilian friend that ate capybara.
Well, they do. I mean, it is a food source down there. That they were, in fact, they were brought to this country as a fur bearing critter for they thought would help certain parts of the economy or and as a food source. They were brought up here also as meat. They thought some people would eat them. So it probably explains why they put them in Louisiana, because I always heard that Cajuns will eat anything.
Well, they brought nutria rats.
Oh, that's right. Nutria. Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Nutria. I'm getting the two of them mixed up.
And they've about turned that ecosystem upside down there.
That's correct. They have indeed. I'm sorry. Dang it. I get them two mixed up a lot. Now nutria get pretty good size too. I don't know if they're as big as a beaver.
Smaller than a beaver, but a lot bigger than a muskrat.
Yeah. A fast food joint in Peru. Oh, he said they ate them at a fast food joint in Peru. No, I used to have hamsters at school years ago and rabbits before that. It was too cold at night at school. Oh, really? Too cold at school. That's interesting. Ian says he gets Nutria and Nutella mixed up.
One is
I've
jarred.
always found Nutella, excuse me. I've always found that Nutella spread easier on bread, and I don't know if you tried it that way or not. Oh, I'm glad you're in here, buddy.
One's jarred and one you could probably can and put in jars.
There's a good point. We've talked about canning meat in jars, so go back to that episode. Oh mercy! What time is it? I'm gonna start shutting down here, guys. I think I'm about done for the day. My gluteus maximus muscles are hurting. They shut off the heat at night and weekends. I mean, how did they keep from freezing and busting all the water pipes, Carol? Up there where you're at in the cold, frigid north. Anyway. Oh, mercy. Anyway, guys, I appreciate it. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't as bad as the
adventures in car seats.
Yeah. The evolution of car seats in America. But they just turn it way down. I guess as long as it's above freezing, they're okay on pipes. But I'm getting ready to spend. I have to confess, one of my Gear Fest or Gearhead. What would be how would you put this? I'm going to spend the next 24 hours involved and buried in the motorsports, most likely. At 1:30 today, the 24 hours of Daytona race starts, and I will probably try to watch as many of those 24 hours as I can stand. So that's what I'll be doing for a while. No. There ain't no football today, is there?
You need to start out. You need to start that festival out with a viewing of Talladega Nights.
I can look and see if I can do that. Ian says we have bunnies at my wife's school. They have to go to kids' homes on the weekends. I
So
want to say
the kids get some like animal husbandry lessons, and good. That's good.
Brenda, what were we watching or listening to or reading the other day where somebody was saying that a bunch of parents had gotten upset because there was some reproduction activities going on in a zoo or something, and the parents were really upset that their children were exposed to that because that might make them want to run out and have sex with animals or something. I don't know, but it's kind of silly, I thought. Tina says no football today, so both games are tomorrow. I think they're both at late afternoon or evening games. I think seems like the Cincinnati, at least the Cincinnati game, I think starts at 6:30. But I don't know about the Eagles.
1 and 4:30 our time. I looked.
Carol, is it too late to sign parents? Is it too late to sign slips today? Since I brought up, we brought up animal husbandry here, right here at the end. Ian says, "Go Niners." I'm
Sorry, Ian. Can't agree.
I'm probably gonna say go Eagles, not necessarily an Eagles fan, but I do kind of like Jalen Hurts. I think I tend to root for individual players sometimes, not necessarily teams. If that makes any sense.
You'd be a perfect fantasy football guy.
Yeah, I don't.
I don't either, but that's kind of how that's set up.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense that it would be.
But Ian said that the first game's on at 1:00 Mountain Time, and the second's on at 4:30 Mountain Time. That's my wife just told me the same thing. So that's for the mountain people. That's what we got. So
for us East Coast people, it's 3 and 6:30.
Correct.
So I had one of them right anyway. Well, the race will be over at 1:30, so I'll be ready for football by then. Anyway, it's gonna be a fun year. They've got lots of new kinds of cars, so we'll see. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm gonna back out of here, and I would say Teddy and I'll go sit on the couch, but he's decided to stay somewhere else so far this morning. Thanks everybody for being here. Marks, thank you for being here.
See you, everybody.
Tina says since her bill's off, she don't care anymore. Yeah, Mark was kind of sad about that too. I kind of was too.
I'm the same way.
But it was a tough one for me and him because we both kind of like both of them teams. So
I think the Bengals are a class act, even if they did win. So
unless one of them really crumbles, if it turns out to be Bengals versus Eagles, I think that'll be a good game unless they pull a Super Bowl El Foldo. All right, Ian, you have a good day. Everybody stay well if you can. Mike, eat a donut for me. I'll eat one for you. How about that? Well, he's gone, but Diana, you can tell him. You guys have a good rest of your day, and I hope to see y'all again next week. And toodaloo.